Peter came to Jesus with a question that many of us have asked in our hearts. Lord, if my brother sins against me, how often must I forgive? Peter thought he was being generous when he suggested, as many as 7 times? But Jesus gave him an answer that went far beyond counting. Not 7 times, but 77 times. Jesus was teaching Peter that forgiveness is not about keeping score. It is about having a heart that refuses to be controlled by anger, resentment, and revenge. Then Jesus told a powerful story about a king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. One servant owed the king an enormous debt, far more than he could ever repay. When the servant realized that he could not pay, he fell before the king and begged, "Be patient with me, and I will pay you back in full." The king was moved with compassion. Instead of demanding payment, he did something extraordinary. He forgave the entire debt. The servant walked away free. But then something disturbing happened. That same servant found another servant who owed him a much smaller amount. Instead of showing the mercy he had just received, he grabbed his fellow servant and demanded payment. The man fell to his knees and begged for patience. But the servant refused to forgive him. He had him thrown into prison until the debt was paid. When the other servants witnessed what happened, they were deeply troubled. They went to the king and told him everything. The king summoned the unforgiving servant and said, "I forgave you your entire debt because you begged me to. Should you not have had pity on your fellow servant, as I had pity on you?" The king was angry, not because the servant had once been indebted, but because he had received tremendous mercy and then refused to show even a small measure of mercy to someone else. Jesus ended the parable with a serious warning. "So will my heavenly Father do to you, unless each of you forgives your brother from your heart." The lesson for us: there are moments when someone hurts us deeply. Sometimes the wound comes from a friend, a family member, a spouse, a coworker, or someone we trusted. Forgiveness does not mean pretending the pain never happened. It does not mean approving what someone did. And it does not always mean immediately restoring trust. But forgiveness means choosing not to let hatred control our hearts. Jesus reminds us that we are all people who have received mercy. We have made mistakes. We have needed forgiveness. And because God has shown us compassion, we are called to extend that compassion to others. Sometimes we say, "I will forgive, but I will never forget." But Jesus invites us to go deeper. Forgive from the heart. Today, perhaps there is someone you need to forgive. Maybe you cannot change what happened. Maybe you cannot make the past disappear. But with God's help, you can choose to release the anger and surrender the pain to Him. Forgiveness is not weakness. Forgiveness is freedom. When Jesus finished teaching these things, He left Galilee and continued toward Judea. His journey continued, and so does His invitation to us. Do not keep a record of every wrong. Do not let bitterness become your prison. Remember how much you have been forgiven, and learn to forgive. Because sometimes the person we set free through forgiveness is ourselves.